I have recently released my sketching brushes. And the sketching brushes are just something else that I've been working on the side. My sketches have never been really out there. It's more been my painting that I post on my website and my front page. But I just, you know me, I have an animation background, and I love to you know, work with that. So I release the sketch brushes. People see me sketch and they always want those sketches. I sketch a lot in after hours streams, if you guys ever catch those. Another update that I wanted to give you guys was my YouTube channel. Some people don't get notifications, and maybe it's because you guys don't have the little bell here. This is my like creator thing, but you guys have different, you guys see differently. But please make sure you have the little bell on beside my subscriber count. For those who don't have my brushes, who want my brushes, I use them just in and out of all the critiques. I have a bundle up that is one brush set off. So all the brushes are there in that bundle, but it's like one brush cheaper than buying them all separately. I'm so sorry that this came out late. I'm just releasing it for the Christmas season. Porsche Studio update is out. The complete version is out. We just have one more model to load in for you guys, and it is the hand model. So for all those who currently have it, don't worry, your updates are for free. You don't have to download it anywhere. For those who don't know how to start Porsche Studio, come on. It's right here. So for those who are looking for the start button, don't you move your mouse around and this little thingy gets highlighted. You just gotta click on this and it starts loading. And once it loads, you'll be able to see some really, really cool stuff. So as soon as the update is out, there was a little graphics here that, like I was telling you, where the new updates are. We're going to be doing that a lot to show you guys what changed between each update. So for the model library, a lot of models have been polished and cleaned. We have added tree models. We're going to be bringing in more tree models. The lighting right here, this is really important, not the lighting, forget the lighting. This is what's going to help a lot of you deal with your graphics card limitations. So right here you can choose your resolution, you can choose the window settings, and you can choose the graphic settings. Graphic settings, you do lose a lot, but it means that you can run it. These shadows here are what happens when we turn it on completely low. When we turn it on, the most unbaked, nasty looking shadows, but at least you can get your screenshot. At least somehow, some way, you can still get some semblance of a shadow. If your graphics card is so low, this can't even run it. This is not what I intend you guys to run on Porsche Studio, but we notice a lot of people want to use it, but don't have the best cards, so we set this up for those who need it. A lot of you can just, you know, work with medium. A lot of you are good with medium. High, ultra, those are the ones that I really want you guys to work with. These are some really amazing looking shadows. I hope that this is starting to make your lives a little bit easier. When you close this, it starts up in the setting you left it in, so don't worry about it crashing. Also, after the update, it starts in the lowest setting. You have to actually make it higher. So for those who are saying the update has ruined the shadows, no, it hasn't. Just go here, follow the order of the little graphics that Abu made, and go to the little gear and turn it up to ultra. It'll stay on ultra every time you open it. You can change the quality here as well for the performance, for lighting settings. For further lighting settings, even more awesomeness, you have to turn on enhanced lighting at the bottom of the lighting feature panel here, and then you get all the bounce light, all the ambient occlusion, all of that sexy stuff, and then you have a lot more to deal with. When I see that the hand model has been loaded in, fully posable and beautiful, it's gonna save my life every time I try to draw a hand. I'm sure you guys have seen me in after hours. For some reason, I just go into a hysterical giggle every time it's time for me to draw a hand. I will no longer have to deal with that. So the hand model was specifically designed for my disabilities with hands. I am fully out there admitting I can't draw hands as well as faces or anything like that. But the hand model should fix all of that for you and for me. And that will come out soon as that is out, which will mean that is it for Porsche Studio. Anything that we add will just be minor or small. We might add more trees, but that's already in there. But any major changes are pretty much ending at the hand, the posable hand. That's pretty much all we can offer. We have a posable figure, we have a posable hand, we have features that you can change in a portrait for male and female. We have all kinds of ages. We have the low poly and high poly models for like the low poly busts that help you kind of break down the shadows of the face. We have all of that, so it's pretty much going to be in its final form. Pretty much Portrait Studio is still in beta, considering that we've been changing it so many times and there have been so many updates. It's still technically beta. As soon as you know, we do our last update, which is the last hand, as soon as we add the hand, that's when it will be version 1 officially. But until then, it's not beta because you guys already use it. You can use it fine. There aren't many glitches or hiccups or anything like that. But we're just going to call it beta until it hits its final form, which is after the hand model. The sale has been out. A lot of people have it now. So I'm really happy about that, that all of you have access to this learning tool. So big thank you to everyone who's bought it, who's supported us. It's pretty much just come full circle. I'm so happy that it's just developed into what it is today. And I hope you guys get a lot of use out of it. I know a lot of people on Discord are really messing around with it and having fun. You get features for all kinds of lighting control. You get secondary, tertiary light sources. You get to control the background, the models. You have a fully posable mannequin. And as for the mannequins, guess what we have? We have personalized controls per mannequin. And then we have the little indicators of where the joint is, so you can move each section. Before, the joints were hidden, so you didn't know what you were clicking on. So now you have that. The hand in the model is posable. Woo! So we have that. I still wanted the separate hand model so you guys can get a close-up outside. Maybe you already drew your body and you just want a reference. The hand model that's coming up is less detailed than this in one way, which is it has more of a cubed side to the fingers to help you remember the geometric anatomy of hands. That's something I personalized in the development of the upcoming hand models. But these hand models are all posable now. You can do whatever you want. You can pose them. Of course, please don't break the finger, but you guys can pose as you need to. It's all just wonderful, and you can refresh. Whoops. You can send it back to default. You also have a joint now that moves the whole model, so you guys don't have to worry about it being distorted. Last time we didn't have this. So it isn't technically beta, but at the same time we do still want to perfect it. So the first one we released didn't have all of this. A lot of you recommended these changes. So if you still have recommendations for what you want to see in Portrait Studio, concerns, stuff that just could be a little bit more just convenient, settings you want to see, a setting that you want to split into two separate settings, please go to istebrak.com and go to, I think over here, yeah, and just submit a little form here explaining what it is you want changed, what kind of problem you're having, and stuff like that. I think that it's fair to have refunds possible within like a 48-hour window, but honestly, in this world of pirating, I feel like it's not fair for you guys to request refunds 30 days after or 60 days after buying it. We put a lot into this, and we don't know if you still keep in your copy. And that is leading me into one more thing, which is there's going to be a licensing and registry. It's not going to be like a license key. You still have your copy, but your email that you bought Portrait Studio with will be registered into a little queue, into a little list, and you can use your email to log into Portrait Studio with a little login screen on the loading screen that you saw here. I think that's it. Was that all that I had prepared? Oh, awesome. So on December the 20th or the 21st or somewhere near Christmas, because I'm going to be busy then, I'm going to release all my Patreon videos from this year. So it goes all the way from sculpting to more sculpting to stylizing realism, values under contrast, under cast shadows, sorry, stylizing realism part 2, smudging and focal points, design journal for one of the little paintings I painted, the Excalibur. All of this is my personal work. Everyone who wonders, hey, does Istebrak even draw? Yes, she does. And they're all thrown into Patreon every year. So for those who want to get these videos right away, you just have to join on Patreon over here. If you want to be a part of Patreon, there's a lot of stuff coming up in Patreon if you want to support it. I've never pushed Patreon in your faces. I have it right there. Whenever I go to Istebrak.com, you guys see it. If you want to be a supporter of the community and whatnot, you can go ahead and support through Patreon. It is not required. Please remember that it does not mean you get priority queue or get more critiques than anybody else does. There is going to be a private patron-only Discord, but that's because, you know, they're patrons and I want to stay in contact with them and communicate with them. Other than that, really, it doesn't mean that you get more priority treatment. The community is free for a reason. You just go to Google Plus here and you join it. Every one of these paintings that I chose today was from the Google community, all non-patrons and all people that just hang out with us in Discord, or people that I've never even met before. They're just in the community that I choose art from. So none of these mean that you have to be a patron, but it's still there for those who want to be patrons. You get my brushes, you get my PSDs, you get pretty much everything before anybody else does. But for those who just can't afford it, please remember that it's not required. I don't mean to shove it down your throat. I know a lot of you are growing students. I'm not offering fan art or 5-minute little quick videos. I'm not offering NSFW. So if you're expecting that or you're used to seeing that in Patreon, that's not what I offer. I offer my insights, tutorials, my personal work, my thoughts on stuff that I'm working on, design journals. Just my actual journey as your teacher is available on Patreon for those who are interested. And I think that's it. I have a very ambitious Patreon goal of 1,000 patrons. I know that's really ambitious. I'm sorry. But I think it's possible, like, you know, over like a 5-year period or something. And I think that's it. I think that's it. There's one more little thing, which is the holiday challenge. I've been announcing that. And that is going to be announced by the end as well. I'm seeing some amazing stuff for the holiday challenge. So to see them, you just go to the challenge submissions. And you can take a look at what people have recommended. For this person, please, please choose this one as your thumbnail. Your finals all look great, but honestly, the best one is this one. This is so beautiful. So, Signy, I really want you to work with this one. This is beautiful. I love how this guy looks like he's distributing the snow, like he's a fairy that's responsible for, like, snow, like in the what are they called? The Tinkerbell movies. I don't know if you guys have seen those, but I recommend those. But like, you know, they're like fairies in charge of autumn and fairies in charge of snow. Some of these are a little bit kind of off. Remember that these are nighttime scenes, so I recommended in the description originally for the challenge to keep it nighttime so you can actually have fun with the lighting and really show off the lighting. You know, twinkling lights are best at night. This is beautiful, this right here. Anything that is high bird's eye view or high in the trees or worm's eye view always looks great. Remember to try not to detail too much in your thumbnails. This looks like a side scroller or Super Smash Brothers kind of camera. I'm not really fond of this one. This one looks kind of cool and claustrophobic, but maybe if you had a little bit higher camera. So really experiment with your cameras. I love this one because of the cast shadows. So if you had the cast shadows kind of lean a little bit more to one side, that would be really cool. I can't give any extensive little descriptions, but I hope I'm clear enough as to what I want to see for the challenge. These are looking a little bit like Halloween stuff. Don't go too dark. Remember, it's a cheery holiday town that's busy with people singing and dancing around. I love this one. Number 1 is my favorite of this one here. So I just want, I think I've said this before, I really want you to work on this one. All of these are nice. Maybe this one's nice too, but this is the best one. Anything like unsuspended stuff, go a little bit more busy. This is looking really empty. And that's all I'm going to cover for today. So I'm going to go ahead and close Portrait Studio and open it when I need it. And let's go. I think I have to start my tablet. There we go. So Dem, I just remember the old times when Istebrak actually used Skype to talk to the students. Yeah, I got a little out of control there because I don't think there was very little mediation that I could do in moderation on Skype as opposed to Discord, which was allowed me to be a lot more in control. I don't like the group turning into some big I'm sorry to say, free meetup. That's kind of what happened on Skype, which I didn't like. It's not a fetishist art group or fetish art group or whatever. It was an art group in, you know, design and concept art and stuff like that. A little bit more dignified, just the nouns more dignified. Okay, let's get started. Sorry about all the announcements. It's a very busy month and a lot of stuff to get out there. Okay, so let me see what I'm starting. Oops. What did I just do? What did I just do? Can anybody tell me what I just did? I don't know. Oh, this little thingy-majingy. Okay, sorry about that. So right over here, I was gonna look at this one. I really wanted to paint over this completely, like transform it. I'm gonna talk about cartoon into realism, skin tones, cast shadows, and more lighting stuff. So let's start with this dude. So the biggest thing about this is that you have cast shadows. Cast shadows mean a strong light, and a strong light means a light that is strong enough to affect the background. When you're setting up something like this, the background has to be considered, because if you're casting shadows that strong on a character like that, it means that the room is bright enough to allow this. So I would go all the way up here. This is still gray. This is white. This is that blinding, disgusting value you should never use. But this is still pretty friendly. This is still bright enough to prove that the sun is strong enough. And the biggest lesson I ever teach about skin tones, which is like the first video I ever made on YouTube was about skin tones, was the subtlety. Please be subtle with your choice of colors. Please don't oversaturate. Skin is actually very, very saturated. It's not some like neon light that's like constantly glowing. It's a very, without all the blood and without all the oil and without all the muscles underneath it, skin just as a separate film is really yellowy and white and gross looking. And that's how you should remember to treat it. There are areas when we have a high spike of blood, like around his nose, maybe because he's tanned around his nose more than the rest of his face. Maybe he has just capillaries that are really close to the skin at the highest dermal level. I think that's what they're called, just like a bunch of varicose veins around the nose that men have. Maybe it's just old age discoloration. Maybe that's just what it is since birth, just discoloration. But that's where we preserve a lot of the blood for high traffic areas. So for those saying, hey, when I desaturate, things look a little bit dead. Well, maybe because you're desaturating all at once and you're like doing something like this, which does make him look like a zombie. So we're not asking for that. We're asking for something very simple like this, and that's where you'd stop, and then you'd move on to desaturate some areas of shine. So wherever we have stretched skin, so write this back to me, stretched skin and oily, wet areas have low saturation on the highlight. That means that, yes, it does have a yellow tint to it. So you look at it, look at how yellow that is. So we're comparing it to the before, the gray. The top part of this preview screen right here, this little color picker. I don't know if you guys can even see that on OBS. But yeah, that's what we're desaturating right now. Then I'm going to go and grab this like highlighter color, the shadow color, and just brush all of this on the nose. Because now when we do have saturation, it's actually doing something. I'm going to desaturate in the shadows, which is going to help create the feeling of the shadow. I'm also going to desaturate the hair. I'm not sure why you guys, when you choose skin tones, you apply that skin tone color to the white of the eye and the hair. Stop doing that. Don't apply skin tone color to the white of the eye and the hair. Write that back to me. There's no blood in every single hair. That's disgusting. And there's no blood in the white of the eyes unless you're extremely sick. So yeah, be careful with that. I'm going to just desaturate the hair. The more you do this, the less like a sepia tone everything will have to it, which is like a really gross color that can happen in your work. That's just whenever you're transferring from grayscale to color, students always have this like, it's not so much as they made it skin tone, they just made it sepia. Then I'm gonna bring that same coloration on another high traffic area. High traffic just means like an extremity, just somewhere that is you know, the end of something. So the chin, the ears, and the nose. Really, really great for that. The sun is coming at the top, right on his ears. What does that mean? That means subsurface scattering, man. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm just saturating these areas to show the subsurface. Dodge tool is perfect for this, only with a controlled amount of exposure. Please make sure you're not using like 90% exposure and then wondering why it's not working for you. Okay, so there's some subsurface around the ears. I'm still not really happy with the results, so I'm just going to go backwards and then erase away wherever. Subsurface scattering is an inside-out glow, and if you don't know how to do subsurface scattering, go to my website and, go to my channel and search subsurface scattering. I made a whole video on it of how to apply it. Here, let me see if I can find it for you guys. By the way, I don't know if this is also with you, but you can search my channel, by the way. You can search right over here. A lot of people don't know this. So, scattering. Right here, I did a whole video on it. So just go and watch it. We really talk about exactly what needs to happen in order for subsurface scattering to actually read. Okay, so one thing that you're missing a great deal of here is his features. His features are really underdeveloped. Whenever you have a portrait and for some reason the nose is more developed than the eyes, you really are like you're doing yourself a disservice. I'm actually going to get a less dodgy and more like purpley pink to add to the nose because he's quite pale. So that means that we get a little bit more purple. See what that purple did compared to more orange? So always question when you're transferring from grayscale to color skin-wise, ask yourself two big questions. What is the value of the skin? Is it a light skin tone or a dark skin tone? And what is the temperature? Is it cool or is it warm? He obviously has cool, so I'm just going to throw some more of that cool just on. Even though you might be cool or warm, subsurface is the same because blood is the same color. If you're really dark, then subsurface is going to act a little differently with you, which is just a bit more dim. I'm going to desaturate a great deal. Now it's talking about differences in skin thickness. Hair that grows on the scalp or something like that does not get skin tone. It gets very gray because that's where hair used to grow, just around here where he shaves on his beard, especially on male faces. Wherever he shaves, he gets that bluish color. So we don't go straight to blue. What we do is we grab the desaturation tool, the sponge tool, and then we desaturate completely, not 100%, but just enough. And then we move into greens or blues. The paler you are, the bluer it looks. The darker you are, the greener it looks. It can go back and forth, but I see more blues and lighter skin tones. So I'm getting the color all the way down to 14%, and I'm just throwing that blue in there. So this is his like 5 o'clock or 3 o'clock shadow. I don't know what it's called. But I'm just throwing that there. A little bit around his eyebrows, wherever his eyebrows are growing, a little bit more sparse. So when hair occupies skin, it takes up the space, so blood takes up less space, therefore it decreases the amount of redness in the skin, so the skin ends up looking a lot more pale. And even with the black of the hair underneath, it looks a lot more grayish. Then it's about form. Then we have to talk about form. He's not that chubby. He's not that obese, so he will have some kind of indication of a jawline. So that's step one. Yeah, I've been feeling so much better. I think a lot of my students, I don't know if you guys even believe in this, but like have been praying for me and sending me good thoughts. And I think God finally got annoyed and he's like, "Oh my God, fine." Like, oh God, this teacher is so nice to us and she gives us lessons. Please make her feel better. Last time she was crying and it just didn't feel good, so please make her feel better. I think somebody out there did this exact prayer. So I just feel better. I hope it stays. I don't know. You know how doctors are. They just ditch you once you start feeling better. So I'm just throwing some highlight here around the cheeks. Being very careful not to paint away your painting here. His eyebrows are a little bit too unwrinkled. He looks more worried than stern. I'd like it if he looked less sad and his default, because this is going to be character design. This portfolio is going to be impressing some people who need characters drawn. So you might want to just show stern or natural, like Ron Swanson default. Oh, Annie, I love you too. And especially because I have an audience all over the world, so I think you guys sent in some great applications and I feel better. I don't feel so like stranded anymore. I feel like I found some answers. I still get sniffles. I mean, I have sniffles right now. Definitely not the chaos I used to have. And I'm just kind of redistributing some highlights over here. But yeah, thank you for annoying God for me. That guy had it coming. And I'm just joking. Please don't punish me. So over here, some bounce light from nearby environment. Whenever you're doing bounce light from nearby environment, take a look, guys. You grab the environment color. You don't grab the highlighter color anywhere because that's not what's bouncing. What's bouncing is the background. Look at that. It's the Mario. Oh no, Satan. God. No, Satan. I can help. It's nice to hear your real voice. Thank you. Aw. Oh, man. So I'm just smudging away. Remember, it's not everywhere that this goes. Only some areas get it. But yeah, I used to draw lots of grumpy old men. So I'm a bit of a professional when it comes to the 5 o'clock shadow. I love painting that. I have an affinity for beards. There should be a website called Beard Affinity. Anyway, before I sound any more weird, I'm just adding some of that bounce light. See what that did? Isn't that just lovely? And then I'm going to add some basic texture for the eyebrows, dragging in the outside color in. Don't want to make them any more bushy than they already are. Then I'm just going to smudge, smudge, smudge. And really, if you're not going to go full mustache, then just don't bother painting the mustache. I'm telling you, you need the big, you know, bushy mustache. You're already going into caricature. And if you're not, and if mustache is all he's got, and you're not taking advantage of that, you're going to lose a lot of the character. So the fact that the mustache kind of, what's the word? Like, I don't know, it just goes outside the outline, breaches the outline. There we go. This one should be as well. He's not that 3/4 view. Maybe this one could be a little bit less than this one. In mustaches, we don't really render them hair by hair, but we do give them a really nice closing texture. Just like that. And I'm just using my dry oil brush. Right? Nope, I'm using the second one. I'm so sorry. Dry oil brush too. Not anymore. Okay. So starting in the nostril and moving down. So yeah, please work on the eyes. You need a little bit more work on the eyes, detail around the eyes like this. I'm just gonna sketch these parts in and move on to the next one. But I'm just gonna grab one of my sketching brushes and just sketch in where I would want to see some more detail. So the dark circles around the eyes, the crow's feet, the sagging, eyebrow fat, the bounce light, the inner and outer corners of the eyes, the lips right over here. You need a little bit more detail on the corner of the lip, like little soul patch area, if he's got some of his mouth under his mustache. Some more work on the cheekbones. A little bit less circular. He's still going to look like he has a circular face, but some kind of definition to the jawline. Yes, he's circular, but you still went a little bit realistic in some areas. A little bit more definition around the nose. And then a stronger earlobe. The older you get, the more you sag. And if you got any meat hanging around, trust me, it's not going to point up anymore by the time you're this guy's age. So even men with their little earlobes, their earlobes sag down just as much as the nose does. A little bit less upset and desperate looking, so I'm just gonna cancel. I forgot to merge. I'm just going to give him a more kind of like Ron Swanson eyebrow. A little bit more definition on the cranium. Maybe his head isn't perfectly circular. It's got a little platform at the top there, which is very usual. And ask yourself, where is he from? He kind of looks Mexican to me, but maybe because of the mustache. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean that to sound like I'm marginalizing a feature to a group of people. But I don't know. He kind of looks Arab too, because of the mustaches. By the way, it's not like an aesthetic thing with Arabs and their mustaches. Some Arabs can't grow a beard, and all they can grow is the mustache. So it's not an aesthetic thing. I only discovered this recently as my brother started growing up. So a little bit more strength on the temple. You see what it means to just have a little couple bumps here? When you do a silhouette, white on black, black on white, of just the head without the features, just make it a shadow. Would you really be able to tell it's a head without the ears? So give it some little bumps and bruises here and there to show that it really is a head. That makes it look that much more realistic. Always remember the outline detail. Write that back to me. Kebab, yes. Some of you caught my memes. I made some memes. That's how you know I'm feeling better. Okay. So I'm just fixing that farther nostril. I'm just throwing in some more highlights here and there. Stronger edge of the nose in front of itself. Stronger nostril shape that should be higher than the septum. A higher start for the wrinkle of the nose. This is sometimes what I do when I'm stuck in a painting and I'm too late to restart the sketch. I just start sketching on the painting. It's a great place to reignite your love for your painting. A great way, sorry, to reignite your love for your painting. At the same time, you can just, go back into feeling like things can be a little bit more rough. And there's not much pressure anymore to perform. Okay, you might want to show that he actually plucks his eyebrows just around here. So you gray out this whole area around his eyebrows. That's okay. You gray out some more all the way up the temple. I'm going to gray out all the way here. And then sometimes you get a little bit of excessive redness around the eyes. So I'm just going to invert and then to saturate. And just saturate around the eyes. And wherever we have a cast shadow, there's a ring of light around it. A ring of colors, sorry. Just over there. It's hard to see. Alright, so we have a little bit more realism. Definitely a great place to start. I'm only sketching over it because it's, it's about doing everyone's work today. One more thing, I would just exaggerate this mustache even more. Just like that. Careful not to make it look like Saddam Hussein. It's not really like the best of dudes to imitate. But you had a lot of yellow. Look at the before now. Yeah. So lots of color. Looked more like a storybook, and that's fine too. But considering what you did with the eyebrows and the nose and what you did with the hair, I feel like you were going for some realism. It's about subtlety. So remember how subtle we started? So that subtlety and that desaturation around the jaw. Yeah, nose hair, add that in. Ear hair, even that too. But yeah, the fact that the jaw is so desaturated compared to the nose made the nose pop and the jaw pop. But here, everything was beige. It's like he had a really bad tan job and he was very upset about it. You can shift this over into greens. You can shift it over into cooler values. It looks sunburnt. Alright. And you can just bring it back to neutral. Yeah, he did look sad. It made me very sad, like a very sad grandpa or a very sad dad. Oh man. Okay. So, gonna merge that down, and hopefully that was helpful for you. If you do have questions, feel free to ask now. I'm just gonna take questions as I go, so let me stay in theme. Really quick suggestions for this. Background is way too white. You don't need this much white. There's not that much going on her face. Then we're just looking at what you're doing with the head. All of your shadows aren't pulling towards the bottom, facing away from the light source. So if the light source is top down on a sphere, the shadows all total toward the bottom. Everything points down because the light points down, so shadows run away or move away from the direction of the light source. That and the fact that you have real distortion on her face. Everything is just leaning towards one side. So I don't know if you've been flipping your canvas, but please flip your canvas as much as you can. You have a bit of a confused two-direction gaze, so you got one direction for each eye. And just dealing with that. And then before, after, and then we've got a little bit more whiteness down here. The whites of the eyes are less white than your skin tones, which was a big deal. It's like she had shimmer, but only used it on her, like used a lot of it. So I'm just gonna adjust that. Okay, so I'm just using a mid-tone on darken, making sure the whites of the eyes are lighter than the highlights. Sometimes the whites of the eyes are in a cast shadow, so they can't be lighter than the highlights, but in this case she's not that exposed. So all of these areas here, just like that. And so I'm lightening up the top half, and I'm going to darken the lower half. Darken. And that's going to kind of refocus all the shadows to a more believable light environment instead of it just being everywhere willy-nilly. So a lot of you are moving into 14-day challenge to learn how to paint, but you're bringing in all of your symbol dependency back with you. You're going to have to get rid of that. And symbol dependency means that you're putting the features ahead of the form and the geometry, which is in private tutoring. When I'm teaching students privately, that is lesson number 1. Where are you depending on symbols, and where do you just completely ignore your geometries? So you ignored that this is one big sphere, and that's why it was holding you back. The outline of the nose, God, you just have so much outline around the nose right now. You don't know how to draw a nose. I'm being serious with you. I'm being straightforward. You don't know how to draw a nose. As far as you know, when you sketched the nose, it was 2 nostrils and 2 nostril cavities. It's a little bit more than that. It's a whole geometric system. It's one side, it's the top of the bridge, it's the triangular tip, it's the triangular base, the inward base, it's a nostril per half. It's the fact that the sides of the face can be light, or the nose itself can be pigmented darker. It's a little bit more than that, and because all of that is missing, there's no addressing in any of that here right now. So what you need to start doing is, let me see, how am I going to do this? Give the nostrils a value and give the side of the face a value. And when I see that not even that is there, I consider it as an inability to paint a nose, which means an inability to recognize the geometry required to paint a nose. So right now you don't know how to paint a pyramid. And saying you don't know how to paint a nose is saying you don't know how to paint a pyramid or a triangular, whatever the shape is that's in each area. A cube for the tip of the nose, or a sphere, sorry, for the tip of the nose, a cube for the top of the nose, the bridge. So the fact that this core shadow here is missing, whether or not you got nostrils, who cares about the nostril holes if we don't even have this shadow right now? This one right here. The fact that the top half of that tip of the nose and the bottom half have the same value, you don't know how to paint a pyramid. Okay, so in not being able to paint the feature, you are also incapable of painting its geometric equivalent. Write that back to me. And by the way, as I promised, in releasing every brush set, I follow every brush set that I release with rewards. So if you write good notes and I choose your notes, you submit them on the Google Community Note category, I send you brushes if I like your notes. So for the really good notes, for those who take notes and really draw the diagrams and apply yourself, and you don't have any extra cash to get brushes or whatever, but you want to benefit from them, I have that option for you as well. I don't give out like 10, but I give out enough for those who really put their time in. But yeah, for those who did buy them, thank you very much. Alright, so I'm just cutting this down. Your canvas size is just huge horizontally, but short vertically, and you give us all this space over here. That's not the space we need when we look at someone. We look at someone up and down. When we check someone out, just ask Levi. I don't know if he's still here. Levi is very good at that. What did I just do? Deselect. Okay, so we look up and down at the character, not horizontally. When we look at something horizontally, that's more of a landscape, which is why landscapes have more of a horizontal head swerving from side to side type deal. There is a bit of value sharing around her face. I don't know the reference you used if you used one, but yeah. Okay. All right, so I think that's quite a jump forward. Still very blocky, and that's okay. We're just blending away some of it. But Levi gave us the dot, dot, dot. But before, after. So a little bit more focused. Levi's pissed off. Everybody watch out. I think it's telling me where it ends. Awesome. So yeah, if you don't know, what to do with your geometry, please think of, with your feature, I'm sorry, please think of the geometry involved with it. If you don't know how to draw the feature, you don't know how to draw its geometric equivalent. You don't, and if you don't know how to draw a pyramid, what business do you have trying to draw a whole face? You have no business doing that. You go and learn how to draw, render a sphere. So the nose, you didn't succeed with that. The whole head shape, you were missing your shadows. You didn't succeed with that. And again, that's all a sign of geometric anatomy problems. Look at the nose. The lips are great. There's no cylindrical indication that you think there's a shadow. But, at least the eyes are spherical. That's great. It still was a very beautiful face. The cheekbones were beautiful. But I want you to step forward. I want you to do a little bit more than this. I don't want your drawings to be accidental. The #1 way to have accidental success in portraiture and anything is to ignore your geometric anatomy. If you want your work to be accidental, you want all your drawings to be just, oh, it was just good that one day and it was a fluke. Your drawings will be flukes if you don't have good geometric anatomy knowledge. Write that down too. Okay, I'm going to say this to the end. This one right here is a bit of a caricature. You get men who have mouths that wide only when they've done facelifts. There's so many actors out there who did facelifts, unfortunately. And, oh man, look at this big day 10. They're so proud. But, by day 10, you shouldn't have thought that, okay, let me draw something for you real quick. Transferring your cartoony anatomy would work. So let's say we drew like a really like buff guy. So I would lay down my blocks. I know I want his jawline to be big. I want his neck to be big. And then I follow up with the heavier lines. Kind of looks like an Arnold Schwarzenegger character. Sharp ears that point at the top. Strong nose. Okay, eyebrows that peek out. Left line. Cigar. I've been really fond of drawing men with cigars lately. Okay, and then just like a really low neckline. Zero neckline, alright? And a V-neck. Ew, no. Just, yeah, normal t-shirt. This is acceptable, but only because it is, no, nobody has circular hats, but only because it is a cartoon. You find a person, a man whose face is like this, his mouth doesn't move all the way here. When we animate him, we don't animate him like that. We do the, you know, we of course it's not the same age. I kind of aged him as I went because I'm really into drawing old people. But here he is, I guess, without the line, a little bit less of a, more of a neckline because he's younger. So this is acceptable, but it's a cartoon. This is a symbol. This is when symbols are allowed to have fun, when it's a cartoon. Try to transfer that over here with this jawline, which is very cartoony. With this ear line here from the temple down, very straight, very cartoony. This wide mouth equivalent to the eyes, very, very cartoony. All of that, you don't get away with it in a realistic version. So please, please look into finding some references so that you can guide the features and their proportions along a more realistic gauge than a cartoony gauge. Look at how low this dude was because of your little title. I don't think you really needed more space for the day 10 title than the portrait. So how do we correct this? Very, very simple. We can do it with liquify, or we can do it with this. It really just depends on whether I want to shrink the face, the head, or not. But we're giving the eyes a bit of an outside orbit. Okay, and then we're going to shrink the eyes. I mean, shrink the heart, no, whoops. The mouth, the width of the mouth, horizontally, like that. Then we're going to go for more realistic, rounded geometries. Yes, male features are more geometric, but that doesn't mean it's a cube. It doesn't mean men have square heads. Doesn't mean they're squares, like Levi. Okay. And then we have the strong jawline. We have the tucked in. Look, listen, with the ear line, it just should be under the eye. It really shouldn't be that high unless the camera is high, looking down. Remember that weird cranium bumps here and there I did on the old dude? I'm just going to do a couple of those. Bump here, bump there, bump here, bump there. A little bump there, bump inward here. That yeah, it was a very SpongeBob-like face. Yeah, very cartoony, that's what I mean. Tuck in the ears, raise the lobe. Discrimination. Square head discrimination. Keep the eyes. You're drawing a cute guy, so that means he gets a bit more of a face that has the almond shape to it. Men can have almond-shaped eyes. Write that back to me. They cannot have these, though. Well, they can have those, but they just can't have, like, female, natural, like, bitch face. Alright, nostrils, good. It can be a little bit bigger. The nose, I mean. This is a good start to kind of correcting what was going on. But I think you do need to pick up a reference and make things look a little bit more realistic. Yes, men can have almond-shaped eyes as long as generally they're downturned compared to women's, and as long as they don't have a massive eye socket space, like the upper eyelid space. See how much more realistic? It's still the same dude. Don't worry. It's still the same character you drew. It's just not what you had before. So let me lower my dude down. And show you. Before, after. Remember that unwrapping thing I showed you guys when it looked like someone's been unwrapped for 3D modeling? That's what it looked like. Okay. Alright, so I'm just gonna I used to send these back to people so they can reference them, but I think since I started uploading 1080p videos, I don't need to add that extra step at the end of my classes. But hopefully you can use that as a reference. Pause my video and just follow the same corrections I did and see what you can do. This piece is very flat and extremely boring, and you did something that I absolutely hate seeing in drawings, just strings. Stop adding strings. Strings do not make things look normal. They are like stray lines outlining nothing. Hair can be smudged out and blurred out. It does not need this much attention. This stuff on her face, this kind of ribbing, I'm not sure what it is. If it's plates on an android head, I feel like you added that just because, just for shits and giggles. I feel like they serve no design purpose whatsoever. But if that's how the character was sketched originally, you're just gonna have to follow it. But everything about this is just screaming boring. Even though you used all this stuff, even though she's a dangerous, weathered warrior of darkness that is from the feudal era of Japan with a big Japanese flag behind her, something is just, it's still boring. You use so many features. The bell, you even added a bell. You know, just in case things were too boring, you added a bell to make sure, I mean, just in case things weren't interesting enough, you made sure that there was a bell there to make it interesting, but all it did is just, it's just not helping the boring. Why is it so boring? She's got blue eyes, she's got horns, what's going on? It's boring because there's no light, there's no universe, nothing's going on. So the kind of lighting we have to decide on is, you know, presentation. Are we going to present her as the darkness or as the salvation? She clearly is the darkness, so I'm going to go ahead and mess around with some layer modes, as you know I like to do. So if she's a good guy, you want setups like this, drowning in light, angelic illumination. But we need to go back. That's pretty cool, but that's a rip-off, you know, it's not, it's really cheesy effect. What I'm gonna do is add this one. And what I'm doing here is unifying all the colors. I'm also gonna duplicate this and put it onto color. Maybe on darken. No, on color. So I'm unifying the colors. So I have the character, but it's really not about whether or not we keep her, you know, prop colors intact. It's about this presentation that we're doing. Next up would be the cinematic close-up. All right, you showed us the stitches. We don't need any more. Give it a break. Maybe we can crop it like somewhere around here. Show some of her bun. Maybe above her bun line. This is the kind of stuff you do in the thumbnail stage, so you don't look clumsy doing it halfway through like I am. Okay, so we're doing that. We're doing that. What else are we doing? We're darkening. Want to know why I'm doing all this? Because I'm going to follow up with this. Okay, you ready? Get some more saturation in here. Okay, what we're doing here is we're cinematically presenting her by darkening her face, then in doing that, casting a shadow over her identity. That adds mystery, a very valuable cinematic effect. Okay, and what we're doing here is just, you'll realize soon enough that that bell looks a little bit ridiculous and unrealistic. Doesn't matter, but keep going. Her face becomes the darkest point on the canvas. And what we end up doing is throwing in two major lights. It could be a fire she started. It could be, you know, whatever. But at this point, we're no longer desperate for making this read by bringing in one ridiculous prop after another. Okay? So a car, I'm going to give you a really cheesy metaphor. A car is like, I mean, a painting is like a car. You know, okay, so it has really great, you know, I don't know, like rims on the wheel. It's got a great paint job, but it's a 1992 Honda. And it sounds like Satan's diarrhea when it drives. All right. But you got a really, you know, okay car color. You got, you know, you don't have the best rims for your tires. But you've got a wonderful engine, and the car does what the car is supposed to do, which is get you from point A to point B. This is the exact equivalent, though very, very at the farthest stretch of the imagination as metaphors really challenged you. This is the point of me doing this. The light, the lighting is what's gonna drive you from point A to point B. I really don't know what I'm doing with this metaphor, but I hope you get my point. Just don't judge me. I never said I was an authority on metaphors. I'm just doing my best. You know, one of you guys here benefited from that on YouTube or on the stream. One of you, you know, clicked. One of you here. Please be honest. Who got something from that metaphor? Come on, you guys. Don't lie to me. So this light here stops at the temple. Right along here, it goes on to her eyes. Look at that. Look at what's happening. This bitch starting to scare me. Look at that. Damn. We got a Terminator line going on. Hot damn, mamacita. That was cringy. Okay. So just take a look now. The smirk is scary. It's no longer about this weeb ass stringy shit all over the film. I'm so sorry, but I whenever I see stringy stuff, I just get pissed off. What are the strings doing there? The strings flatten everything out. It makes it look like scribbly pen that you did in the middle of lecture because you were really super bored. So now because we don't have as much light on her face, we get to smudge the crap out of this. Also, you don't know how to draw a nose either. You need to get some geometric anatomy in your life. Okay, guys, the healthier I get, the cheesier my metaphors, so just take it. Either I don't do any metaphors and I'm super depressed in class because I feel like shit, or you get the metaphors but I feel great. Choose one. Okay. Next thing would be what you did over here with the gaze, which is, you know, is she wearing contacts? She probably is. Because you went all out, so you probably did the contact thing too. You see how I'm not really telling you how to change the props? If I was a bad teacher, I'd tell you, hey, I see this being a little bit more blue, and maybe try some braids on the side, it might help. And I'd be digging around just as lost as you were. But it was never about the costume. It's never been about the costume. Concept art is not about the costume. A lot of it is. When it's just a gray background, it's a character design. But illustration like this, so let's say it like, to be fair, illustration has never been about the costume. Write that back to me and let that be canon. So she's got quite a strong upper lip space over here. And just take a look at how, you know, just how much more dramatic everything looks. It just looks all scary. I feel like I didn't really do her squint properly or her gaze, so I want her to look at me. And she's smiling to one side, and we can make her squint to, raise her eyebrow to another. To make her look more evil, lower the inner eyebrows. Always look to your basics emojis for what to do with an expression. Emojis are a source of wisdom. Write that back to me. When you're lost with expressions, go to your WhatsApp and look at the emojis. Copy what you see. They are universal and universally accepted because they really do encapsulate exactly what happens on a muscular level when it comes to emoting like the feeling of evilness or a feeling of desperation or disgust. All of these really, really detailed kind of expressions. There is a universal template on which they work. Because bone gets the sharpest, fat gets the most tapered secondary bounce. So her cheeks are more tapered than her bones are. Alright, and then just to spice things up, we get our Dodge tool and we choose the hot spot where the ray was focused because everything else was secondary. So just out here. The ray was a little bit more focused. If you want to, shit, I overdid it. If you want to, you can go ahead and add something like this and this. And cool down her skin tone. Do you see how obsolete the color of her prop was? I mean, she never mattered. Her costume never mattered. This dingy little belle over here never mattered. It was about the character that you designed. You designed this woman with, you know, with a fear factor to her, but you presented her in all the wrong ways because you did not pay attention while watching movies. If you pay attention, you can shamelessly rip off cinematic templates. You can write that back to me. Shamelessly rip it off. Just copy, just go ahead and copy exactly what you see because they copied something and that movie copied something else. And then there were the giants on which, you know, the shoulders we stood, the what are they called? The fuck, what are they called? Just the people who did the first movies, you know, they experimented a lot. Yeah. So please remember that, okay? I don't know if the artist is here today, but I'm just going to do a couple more things. But I hope these are reaching you wherever you are. I'm going to darken here and lighten here. You see how we still got a character going on? We still have this. This is still working. Something is still happening. But it's no longer about cheesy little costumes, and it's about an illustration, a scene that is cropped properly, that is colored properly, filtered properly. Everything is just nicely done and no longer cheesy. Okay, so before, after, and I'll do the crop so you can see the difference. You had a tile canvas. That's it. Tommy, get your belt out. You come up to the front of the class and bend over. You deserve to be punished for this tile canvas. What is this? It doesn't matter about the flag in the back and some easy to sell tablet carrier bag shit you fucking find on anime conventions that are sold as buttons and iPhone cases, okay? It's not about that. That's what tiles are for. And even then, you got all kinds of templates to work from. It's about the illustration. Please stop doing your masterpieces like they are about to be sold or that was the final bit. Always be ready to edit them. And if you're watching movies to be inspired and you're not memorizing these cinematic scenes so that you can crop better and stop using tiles, what are you watching movies for? What do you do when you watch movies? Do you just like zone out? You need to start actively watching movies because every single game, movie, show, commercial you see has something it can provide for you, for your visual library to educate you with. So before, after. Trust me, I don't miss the red ribbon. I don't miss her shirt. I don't miss that weird green background color. I don't miss it. Now I'm drawn in. Now I don't want to know who she is. The light is what characterizes your character. Write that down. The light is what stages them. Staging is lighting. Staging is attitude. Lighting is attitude. Lighting is mood. As for this one, why do you have a border? You don't need one. Get rid of that. That's number one. Number two, it's the most boring time of day. 3 o'clock, 12, noon. Most boring time of day ever. When you're illustrating a landscape, and you're choosing a perfectly sunny environment, it takes us all back to Windows XP background. We've had enough of the blue and green. You can still have green, but it can be a very nighttime green. So let's warm some shit up. Okay, so it's a very cool sunset green. So we've done that. Then we're gonna cast beautiful shadow. It's just going to be one big vanishing point shadow. That's going to do this. And guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to... Oh shit, I'm going to get the nighttime color, a cooler version of green, which means a bluer version of green. I'm just gonna darken a little bit. Might shift it over into blue actually, depending on the color mode. Don't worry, don't you worry. Don't worry, don't be afraid of this. I'm right here. Okay, so it might not be, darken might not do it for us, but it just might. No, it needs to be more saturated. You're going a very storybook scene, so I might have to go into full blue, but we'll see what these, I really like what's going on over here, but it's just too much. You might be running out of options. This might be okay if I make it a little bit more saturated and more navy blue. Yeah, baby. Hell yes. Okay, so we've got that. Now what we're going to do is invert. Revert back the top half that was in sunlight back to its original like area. So we're going to revert it back to like the blue, and this is just for the house that has the sunlight on it, so it's going to go back to warm. Don't worry, don't worry. Then I'm going to get some colors, like maybe something a little bit more warm color, and just throw it over the sky. Get rid of this little piece over here. It's okay, I'll just add it back in later. Get those colors back. Just deleting anywhere where it hits over here. I'm deleting like this point up. This is casting a shadow, this point up. So I'm giving a color for anything that almost peeks out of the cast shadows. Because now we've chosen a time of day for all this to really shine. I'm just going to adjust all of this again. Where are you? So bear with me. This will all pay off. And what we're doing here is we're trying to create two environments. One for the, sorry, I'm just working on this. One for the area that the sun touches, and one for the area that is under shadow. Two, one nighttime and one sunset. And what that will do is it'll create more interesting, intriguing light environment, just like before where we had nothing but darkness and the rim light on her templates. Those were two lighting environments. Okay, so everything that the sun doesn't touch gets to be a little bit more cool. Everything that the sun does touch gets that deselect. Gets that highlight to it. Actually, maybe I can do it like this. So we're going to get the dodge tool, and we're just going to dodge. Oops, select inverse. And we're just going to dodge to show that extreme lighting. I'm going to select inverse and desaturate. Anywhere where we have shadows. And look at what happened. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Just that blue. And half the sun, half the sky is turning what? Nighttime. So we're just going to throw this color over half the sky. Starting to get a little bit more cool. And half the sky is turning orangey golden sunset color. So we've had enough of Windows 98, okay? Windows 98 does jack shit. We don't need it because it's boring. It's a very boring time of day. When did, like, you know, in movies when someone confesses their love or confronts a vampire, it's always at sunset or dusk or pitch black nighttime with some foresty lighting magic or something like that. We never really have someone confronting a demon in mid-daylight or someone confessing their love in mid-daylight. You know, maybe they're having a picnic running towards each other in the middle of the day. That's boring. So pivotal scenes that show the environment in its true nature is what we want to stage. We want to stage the scene when it looks best. So in this little quaint little town that gets flooded once a year, so that's why the houses are so high or something like that. In this cute little town, we have, you know, this sunset scene to show that it's more of a chill town, like some Twilight town in Kingdom Hearts, which is very memorable. What if it was called Afternoon Town? Would we really have remembered it to be the same? No. So I'm just choosing a sunlight color over here. Change the hue for only one layer, Control U. Okay, so to see how much more intriguing everything is, and we've got ways to go. We've got the difference between this surface and this surface. We've got maybe some cast shadows. Maybe over here the hill stopped, and there's just a quiet little alley of light coming through, of warm, warm grass color just over here. Maybe we got some of that. Maybe we got some more clouds that have gotten some of that sunlight color, just that really, really warm sunset color just over there in the distance. So what we're doing here is we're matching the environment to a time of day that helps stage it better. So just these changes alone. You could make this cast shadow a little bit more like an angled, the shape of the hill that's casting it. It's a little bit more interesting. You have so many ways to have fun with this. Maybe it's all over the house. That would be more interesting. Find ways to make things a little bit more different, a little bit more messed up. Mess it up asymmetrically. Asymmetry is the language of just composition. Is the love child. I don't know. I'm running out of metaphors or ways to teach you guys. Maybe it's doing a little bit of this. Look at that. Come on. That's delicious. Maybe we got a little bit more cool greens over here, so we're choosing this color, which is a bit too yellow still. We got our color, and we're just shifting all of these over into greens and blues. Just the coming night colors. Maybe it's such a humid day, this cast shadow here goes all the way over. This little cast shadow of this little place. Maybe it's a little bit more of an extreme angle like that. Maybe it's a lower little hill and we've got little kind of bows of light just coming through. Some color dodge. Just like that, just behind. Illuminating some stuff. Maybe that little crack in between the what's it called has affected this house too. Okay, so I'm just gonna flatten the image and just keep adjusting color. Maybe it's also gotten some of this house. You want to know where you're supposed to be doing all this? In your thumbnails. You're supposed to be experimenting. This area, because it's not fully dark yet, it's not fully nighttime, But get some night bounce colors on it, so like some of the purple just sneaking in to reveal some of the houses. It doesn't have to be fully dark. Okay, we can create some silhouettes. All of this over here, where's my polygonal lasso? All of this cools down into the purples. Simple Control U slider should take care of that. Shit. Desaturate. Shift over into the purples that we see here. Let me see if it's a little bit more of this purple. Yeah, it's just like in between these two. More desaturated, more dark. It's actually more drowned in light, so it should look okay in there. So just a little bit more purple. And then anything opposite would just be more light, like that. So this is more interesting. So we're staging according to story. We're telling a story with the staging. It never had to do with what kind of house or how much we drew or how good we drew. Color dodge. Okay, so some really designated like values that we're using here. Really specific pink and purple, yellow and pink. Really specific. Anything that is towards the light is designated with the pink and the yellow. And anything that is in shadow is the blue, green, and the purple. So creating a beautiful, diverse color palette. And then of course you get your rewards. A real, emotion that you're throwing off in your painting. A couple more hot spots over here. And I'm going to smudge. More work is needed for the outside. I don't have any access to layers, so it's hard for me to really show you the impact, but just as much as I've done here should be enough. Maybe some of these rocks just get the slightest little relief from the cast shadows, so they get some of this color on them. Just like that. So it's all that sunset, that really strong sunset color. Some of these mountains in the distance, some of these hills over here, the entirety of the hill, all of this hill behind, all of the points of this hill. This one here can be can go a little bit longer and show its shadow. Maybe that's the shadow we see here. All of these areas, this part of this rock, though some of it is in shadow. You're just tracking down, wherever you have light coming through. And the more you do this, just the more beautiful it looks, the more dramatic. Everything just falls into place. But you gotta have faith, okay? You can't just give up as soon as something looks like a big lasso turd hanging on your off your painting. You gotta give it a chance, experiment, see what you can do with it. This is a great layer mode over here. Sometimes you get the layer mode but the colors are wrong, so you gotta adjust the colors so you get the right effect you wanted. So don't worry if it doesn't look perfect. I actually liked this one. Don't look at this, look at the navigator. See how it reads? And then we're just deleting. We probably have to extend this way. This one has to be extended down, and then filter, blur. And this is how I do my thumbnails. This is how I go about taking, care of all of that stuff without the fear of losing my painting. Okay? So this is more interesting. The skyline in the background could be a bit more just exciting. You could have a bit more of a really strong color in the background, like the really defined purple transferring into blue, or just a whole new color, the most random color, since we're over stylizing with our saturation. we're pretty much exaggerating what happens at dusk. So just gonna lighten a little bit, move things over into like that color, that pink pre-storm color, which looks really cool. I'm going to saturate all the way so we see what we're working with over here. Got two colors going on. Just looking at the navigator, seeing which one works the best. This purple, this yellow works good. And then I'm kind of liking that blue. And then just keeping that, transferring that blue all the way. That's a very dark nighttime value. See how dark the blue is? It's pretty dark for a sky. Usually skies are all the way up here. Okay. What I would do is just bring in some more bounce light around the environment. So around the grass. Just some more bounce light. More grassy hills. More like subcast shadow diffusion. Bring in little intricate details now, like little lights that are starting to get turned on because it's nighttime. Little windows over here, that's where you can start bringing in that really, really hot, warm fireplace color. I'm just gonna do this with my color dodge. That's starting to dress the piece up. Push it down into the reds, go to color dodge, and oops, I didn't do it right. And just warm things up. It can be smaller. The smaller the window, the more detail you express. But yeah. So there's that cast shadow I really want you to include. I'm going to delete it because it's underdeveloped. The cropping is also really bad. I would expect you to have cropping that looks a little bit more like so we have more sky space, and that means more breathing room. Okay, almost done. I said I wanted to do everyone's work today. I think I'm going to stop at this piece since we're running a little bit late. My Photoshop is screaming because I gave it like all this RAM space and stuff like that. Yeah, and I think this is the best kind of mindset to have when you're doing thumbnails of anything that requires staging, which is a great deal of that is in landscapes. It's one big stage. So the thumbnail, I mean the thing that you had over here was just a bad idea. The border. Just get rid of that. That's not going to help you. Lighting is going to help you. See, very boring. And then after. Even if this was a troll house that's cute, a home, even then, if I was the director, I wouldn't say, give me a happy little thing like this. This is very boring. It's very boring staging. Over here is the best. I see some lights hanging around. I see some pathways. I see some people hanging around. I see more little houses here and there. This is such beautiful detailing on these little platforms. You could use some more detailing on the window framing, some more houses in the background, just as silhouettes taking the color of the environment, some more work with the clouds, some trees, some really, really big trees that they used, you know, that they took the wood from. I don't know, just something that helps this, you know, travel vertically instead of staying so flat. We actually created a little tangent here, my bad. Maybe I can lift that up right now. Didn't do much, but yep. All right, so that's it. Any questions at all? Are you thinking about the golden ratio when cropping? No, not really. I don't worry too much about the golden ratio. I'm not out to make a pristine, you know, just all around perfect illustration. What I want is to express mood, atmosphere, have a really great separation between the areas of depth, like the stages of depth, foreground, middle ground, background. This takes a whole other day to paint over. Beautiful job though. I worry about where the line of sight is. I worry about the focal point. Basically, you should never in a landscape put the ideal, like the focal point in the middle of the canvas, because that's just stupid and really primitive and really, really bad composition and framing and staging. You want to put them off canvas, off center, I mean. And then work around that. What's the secondary focal point? What's the tertiary focal point? Where's the horizon line? What's the story? What kind of story am I telling? It's not, the golden ratio is not going to make things look better for you. So don't ask questions that you have no idea, what they mean. The golden ratio is one big mathematical way to rearrange your canvas, but you still have to ask yourself what the story is, what the time of day is, what's the staging, what's the soul of my illustration. Why do I have to, what story am I have to tell? Why do I have to draw this? Why am I, wanting to draw this? What's the story behind it? Those are all the questions you ask. It has nothing to do with optimal staging when it comes to, mathematical way to place something in a four-corner canvas. It has nothing to do with that. Worry more about your focal point and where the eyes have to travel to it, but make sure that the lighting is thought of first. The horizon line, your cinematic approach to it. Copy those movie scenes. Copy them shamelessly, without second thought. Copy them, because that's how we work when it comes to cinema. There is no shame in copying. If you're not copying, you're being an idiot, because you're sacrificing your whole painting for your creativity. I mean, you have no creativity. You need knowledge in order to be creative in the subject, because then you know how to pull strings and how to adjust. You have no knowledge of cinema and staging, but you're trying to be creative through that avenue. How? You don't speak the language. How are you going to write a poem in Italian if you don't speak Italian? So just, give it some time. Follow those movies. I'm always doing this. I have my pen tablet, and I have my phone that has a pen, and every time I see an amazing scene, I just start sketching that scene just for the cinematic staging. Where the horizon line was there a Dutch angle, where did the lighting come from, where did the cast shadows point to, are they helping the line of sight, how small was the object, what was the scaling, how small was the focal point, was there a lot of brightness, was it an open day scene? And that's what the kind of stuff I want to record, so that I imagine and think in that, and then I can start writing my Italian poem. Okay? Okay. Yeah, Framed Ink, and excellent, exactly. Just get that book. There's no difference between sunset and dawn, really. One has more pink, one has more blue and purple. I'd say use more pink and warm values for a sunrise, and more blue and all of that for a sunset. How do we know when we need to pull back on sky space versus giving a piece more sky? For establishing shots, just go for a medium horizon line. For traveling shots, go for high horizon line. You don't really, low horizon line, so you see more of the sky. So if you're trying to show a low scene, a grounded scene, the camera guy is on the ground looking up at the mountain, storytelling, point of view, all of that. Low horizon line, lots of sky. If you're I don't know, it's really bad to do this, but if you're trying to do establishing shots, like in Lord of the Rings, how they showed off the New Zealand landscape, or I forget if they filmed in Iceland, but I think they did. I don't know. I think it was just New Zealand. I don't know. I think that was Game of Thrones in Iceland. Yeah, then you want to have really high bird's eye view camera, looking down on the ground, showing off the rocks and the rivers and whatever. Like in Harry Potter, when they got out of Gringotts on the dragon, there was a lot of point of view shots looking down, because they're on a dragon. And that's the only time really we have any business in Harry Potter showing that level of landscape. Because all the characters are so small in this story, everything is so big around them, so you have to keep the camera low and keep the sky at a lot, keep a lot of the sky up there to make the person feel small. Again, it goes back to staging and narrative. I think that's it for today. Sounds like a female Bob Ross. I think I'm done for today. Thank you everyone for watching. I had a lot of announcements today. So for those who want to submit their work for critique, you just have to go to istebrak.com and join the press on the little Google Plus icon over here and join. Make sure you read the rules when you post. The announcement for the Holiday Busy Town Challenge. I commend all of you who have taken on this challenge. That's why it's called a challenge. A lot of people have shrunken away from it. But I challenge you guys to try it. But yeah, the announcement is right here. Read through it, please. There's a resource pack. To support me on Patreon, go to my website and just click on the little Patreon button. If you're interested in Porsche Studio or interested in the brushes, you can get them all over here. I will upload my Porsche Studio tutorial / trailer very, very soon. I'm very sorry for the delay. But I hope you guys are enjoying the new updates. I hope you guys are, I hope you're going to enjoy the upcoming update with the hand. Thank you everyone for watching. Have a great day, guys. Bye.